I've made the decision to give my parents the fancy car you purchased. What do you say? Mom and Dad are ecstatic. Hold on, did you purchase the vehicle solely to present it to your parents? That's correct indeed. The car is already theirs, regardless of what you say. I'll divorce you if you disagree. Divorce? Something broke inside of me at that very instant. Hearing him say that was too much for me, even if I had always held back. Fine, I replied. If that's how you feel, then I'll do it. Barbara is my name. I work in an office and am 40 years old. I live with my spouse, Anthony, and our daughter, Ashley, who is 9 years old. We live comfortably since Anthony and I both have steady employment. Ashley is maturing nicely, and I make an effort to maintain my happiness. However, nothing is flawless. Anthony's treatment of his parents is my main grievance. Although I believe it's great that he loves his parents, there are moments when it seems like he cares about them more than he does about Ashley and me. For years, this has been an issue. The time I went into labor with Ashley was one of the worst. I informed Anthony that I was experiencing contractions over the phone at work. Our baby was due soon, so I invited him to come to the hospital. However, Anthony answered, "I'm afraid I can't. I'm going to their house to assist my mom, who has a burned finger." It was unbelievable to me. How could he have believed that being present for his child's birth was more significant than his mother's burn? His mother had unintentionally touched a hot pan, it turned out. She only needed to cool it under running water because the burn wasn't that bad. She was all right. However, Anthony hurried over as if it were an urgent matter. I wasn't only angry with his mother, I was also angry at Anthony. Why was he unable to recognize the significance of that moment? We also organized a special birthday celebration for Ashley when she turned 1. However, my in-laws asked Anthony to take them to their destination because they had planned a trip. They were able to reserve an additional room at the hotel, so Anthony did more than just drive them there. He spent the night there with them. Ashley and I were spending her first birthday together at home in the meantime. I was shocked that he skipped our daughter's milestone in favor of a trip with his parents. Anthony works hard and is generally nice to me. However, he prioritizes his parents above all else. I've made an effort to comprehend, but it stings when Ashley and I feel like he doesn't care about us. I'm now wondering how long I can continue living this way given the automotive problem. I started feeling distrustful towards Anthony after everything that happened. This wasn't just a one-time issue. It kept happening again and again. But even though I was hurt, I couldn't bring myself to divorce him. I still loved Anthony, and I didn't want to take away my daughter's father just like that. Anthony wasn't completely uncaring about our daughter Ashley. He showed that he loved her in his own way, so I held on to the hope that one day he would put her first. But since Ashley was born, Anthony has never celebrated her birthday with us. She's now 9 years old, and it's always the same. He seems to think that celebrating her birthday is something I should do by myself. I've tried my best to make sure Ashley doesn't feel lonely on her special day. One year, I even thought about inviting Anthony's parents to celebrate with us. When I asked them, they said, "It's too much trouble to come over." I was shocked. Sure, their house is about 3 hours away by car, but Anthony never thinks twice about driving that distance to visit them. Yet for them, it was suddenly a hassle to visit us for their own granddaughter's birthday. It felt selfish to me, but that wasn't even the worst of it. My mother-in-law is difficult in many ways. From the moment Ashley was born, she made it clear she wanted us to have a boy. She even said, "I told you I wanted a boy. Why didn't you listen to me?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Who says things like that? It's not like you can choose the gender of your baby, and honestly, why does it even matter? Anthony's family isn't some noble, traditional family where a son is necessary to carry on the name. My mother-in-law is just old-fashioned and stuck in her ways. She even shows less love toward Ashley because she's a girl. It breaks my heart to see her treat our daughter this way. Anthony, on the other hand, always tries to please his mother. I think that's one of the reasons he doesn't celebrate Ashley's birthday with us. He doesn't want to upset his mom by making her feel like we're prioritizing our family over hers. There have been other hurtful moments too. One year, Anthony took me to his parents' house for their New Year's family gathering. My mother-in-law used that time to pick on me constantly. She'd say things like, "Barbara, why can't you move faster? Look, that person has an empty glass. Why don't you pour them a drink?" She treated me more like a servant than a daughter-in-law. It felt like she enjoyed bullying me. These moments piled up over the years, and it became harder and harder to ignore how much Anthony's loyalty to his mother was hurting our family. I was working in a brothel. She made fun of me in front of everyone, especially the relatives. She'd say things like, "My son is amazing, but his wife is a disaster. All she does is sit in an office and enter data. How does she not get bored doing such a meaningless job?" I couldn't believe her words. I've explained to her so many times that my job is not data entry. I'm an engineer. But she either doesn't understand or just refuses to listen. And even if I was doing data entry, why does she have to look down on it? That's a perfectly respectable job. It's not just me she ignores. She does the same to our daughter. For example, every New Year she gives gifts to other relatives' children, but skips our daughter entirely. It hurts me to see her treated like she doesn't matter. And what's worse is that Anthony never stands up for us. Whenever his mother insults me or our daughter, Anthony just sits there, laughing along, pretending it's no big deal. Sometimes he even adds to the criticism, jokingly saying, "Yeah, my wife isn't great." Without me, it feels like he's trying to impress his family by putting me down. I stayed patient for a long time because I didn't want to take Ashley away from her father. But as the years went by, my love for Anthony slowly started to fade. It's hard to love someone who doesn't protect you or your child from unfair treatment. Then one day, Anthony came to me with a request. "Hey, there's something I've been thinking about buying," he said. "What is it?" I asked. "A car," he said. I was shocked. Anthony had never shown any real interest in cars before. Why, all of a sudden? Well, I've been driving to my parents' house a lot lately, and I thought it would be nice to get a new one, he explained casually. We live close to a supermarket, and I don't drive much. I'm not very interested in cars, so I figured if he wanted one, he could handle it. "Well, it's up to you," I told him. "You're the one who drives it the most." Anthony looked happy with my response, but then his tone changed, and he looked a little guilty. "Actually, here's the thing," he said. "I'll choose the car, and I want you to pay for it." I was stunned. Anthony wanted a car, but couldn't afford it himself. He expected me to pay for it. The truth is, my salary has always been the main support for our family. When I was on maternity leave, Anthony didn't contribute his income to the household. I had to return to work right after giving birth just to make ends meet. I'm an engineer, and I've worked hard for my career, yet Anthony keeps taking my efforts for granted. This car request felt like the final straw. I talked to my company and arranged to work remotely from home so I could balance my job with raising our daughter. While managing work and parenting, I sometimes found it frustrating that Anthony used his salary only for himself and expected me to pay for big things like the new car he wanted. Still, I decided to let him buy it. After all, when Anthony is in a good mood, he takes good care of our daughter. "Okay, are you sure?" I asked. Yes, thank you, Anthony replied, thrilled. He immediately started looking through car catalogs and doing research online. Since I was the one paying, I tried to warm up to the idea. Since it'll just be the three of us, we don't need a big car, I told him. Yeah, I know, he mumbled distractedly, not really paying attention. Anthony was more focused on visiting car dealerships and talking to dealers. After about 3 weeks, he told me he had found the perfect car and wanted to take me to the dealership. Anthony was so excited. When we arrived at the store, I sat down, waiting for him to tell me what to do next. Soon, the dealer brought out the car. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a large luxury minivan. Oh my gosh, are we really buying this? I asked, shocked. Yeah, isn't it great? Anthony said with a big smile. Wait a minute. I said, trying to stay calm. We don't need something this big. It's way too much for just the three of us. Anthony brushed off my concern. Think about the future. It's better to have something sleek and roomy, just in case we have another baby, he insisted. I was stunned. Even if we did have another child, this car was far too big for a family of 4. Are we seriously buying this car? I asked again, hoping he'd reconsider. Anthony frowned, clearly frustrated. Why do you keep saying the same thing over and over? You're making the dealer uncomfortable. You're the one who said to leave it to me. I did. I admitted, but this is not what I had in mind. Anthony ignored me, signed the contract, and finalized the purchase. Then the dealer explained the price. My heart sank. It was way more expensive than I expected. I can't pay for this all at once, I said. We'll have to take out a loan. Anthony insisted the car loan be in his name, so we went ahead with it. From that point on, we were tied to monthly loan payments for a car I didn't even want. I couldn't shake the feeling that Anthony cared more about impressing himself than making practical choices for our family. I would deposit the money into Anthony's account every month to cover the car loan payments. That's how we managed to buy the car. Eventually, the car arrived at our house. Wow, it's so cool, Anthony said, grinning ear to ear as he admired it. I thought to myself, well, if he's this happy, maybe it's worth it. But I had no idea what was coming next. One weekend, Anthony grabbed the car keys, so I asked, Are you going somewhere? Oh yeah, I'm heading to my mom and dad's, he said casually. Wait, what? You're leaving Ashley behind to visit your parents again, and you're taking the new car. I asked, already frustrated. Anthony then said something that completely shocked me. Yep, that's right. I've decided to give the luxury car you bought to my parents as a gift. I froze. What are you talking about? Mom and Dad are thrilled about it. Of course, I'll still drive it when we go out, but it's theirs now, he said happily. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Hold on a minute. Are you saying you bought this car just to give it to your parents? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Anthony admitted. You've got to be kidding me, I said, my voice rising. You told me you wanted the car, so I agreed to buy it. If I had known it was for your parents, I would have never allowed it. Anthony shrugged. It doesn't matter. It's already bought, it's in my name, and I can do whatever I want with it. If you disobey me, I'll divorce you. Divorce? I repeated, stunned. At that moment, something inside me snapped. For years, I had been holding back, trying to keep the peace for our daughter's sake, even though Anthony always put his parents first. I believed he cared about our family too, but now I realized he was willing to throw us aside without hesitation if it meant pleasing his parents. Divorce, huh? If I disobey, you'll just leave. I said, my voice trembling with anger. Who do you think you are? Anthony didn't respond, so I continued. Fine, let's get a divorce. I don't want you around anymore. Go back to your mom and dad, mama's boy. What Anthony said clearly caught him off guard. I've had enough, Anthony. I'm tired of being second to your parents. I'm tired of you disrespecting me and ignoring our daughter. If you care so much about them, go live with them. I'm done. For the first time, I felt a sense of freedom. I had been patient for too long, but this was the last straw. If Anthony wanted to prioritize his parents over his family, then he could go back to them. Ashley and I deserved better. I decided to provoke Anthony, and just as I expected, his face turned red with anger. You're mocking me, aren't you? He snapped. Fine then, let's get a divorce right now. Anthony stormed off, sneering as he said, I'll go get the divorce papers. He left for the city office, slamming the door behind him. While he was gone, I began packing my things. I called my parents, explained the situation, and asked them to come pick me and my daughter up. I told Ashley to pack her belongings as well. Soon after, Anthony returned, holding the divorce papers in his hand. Here they are. Sign them, he demanded, his handwriting on the forms bold and messy, showing how angry he was when he filled them out. Without hesitation, I signed my part. Well, here you go. I'll file it. Why don't you just leave now? Anthony said coldly. I'm going, don't worry. I don't need you to tell me, I replied. You're such a terrible wife, you know that. Anthony muttered, stomping around the house loudly. As I watched him, I wondered, why did I stay married to someone like this for so long? I regretted not leaving him earlier, but there was no point dwelling on the past. What mattered was that I was finally leaving. For the first time in years, I felt grateful to be taking this step. From now on, I'd focus on being the best mother I could be for Ashley. 10 minutes later, my parents arrived. Together, we packed up the last of my things and loaded them into their car. With everything ready, we left. After reaching my parents' house, I went to the city office to file the divorce papers. Once it was finalized, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. It was just a piece of paper, but knowing that Anthony and I were no longer married made me feel free and lighter. I decided to start looking for a new place where Ashley and I could live together. I was determined to create a better future for us. About a week later, while I was staying at my parents' house, something unexpected happened. I saw the luxury car Anthony had purchased parked outside. Curious and slightly irritated, I walked inside with Ashley. There in the living room were my ex-husband Anthony and my ex-in-laws sitting together. My mother noticed me right away and quickly took Ashley to another room, giving me some space to deal with whatever was about to unfold. I stood there silently watching them. My emotions were a mix of anger, disbelief, and a strange sense of closure. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it. My focus was now on building a better life for me and my daughter away from the chaos of the past. I walked into the living room, and Anthony immediately started talking to me in a panic. Barbara, what's going on with the insurance for the car? He asked, sounding agitated. I looked at him coldly. What's the matter with you? Why are you barging into my parents' house like this? I replied firmly. At that moment, my ex-in-laws raised their voices angrily. We didn't want to come here either. We came because we had no other choice. Why are we being yelled at? They shouted defensively. My father, who had been quiet until then, spoke calmly but sternly. If that's the case, then leave. You're strangers to us now. If you don't go, we'll call the police to have you removed. Hearing this, my ex-in-laws became silent, clearly frightened by the suggestion. Meanwhile, Anthony, still looking panicked, turned to me again. Barbara, seriously, what's happening with the insurance payments for the car? He asked again, almost pleading. I let out a deep sigh. Did you forget what you said when you signed the contract? I asked, looking straight at him. You insisted that everything be in your name, the car, the loan, and all the paperwork. You said it was your car, so you're the one responsible for paying the insurance. My words seemed to hit Anthony and his parents hard. Their faces turned pale as they realized the situation. Anthony had insisted on taking out the loan in his name, all because of his pride. He had wanted to show off by being the one to own the luxury car. Well, I continued, I didn't want that car in the first place, so it's only fair that you're the one who has to deal with the payments. Anthony and his parents looked defeated, but then Anthony muttered something that made the situation even clearer. Oh no, he said quietly. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to explain. We had a little accident with the car. An accident? I asked, crossing my arms. Anthony hesitated, but finally admitted. We were so excited about the new car that we drove it too fast. We ended up hitting another car on the road. The front of the car is completely wrecked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's why it was parked the way it was. When I got here, I said, piecing it together, you parked it so I wouldn't see the front, didn't you? Anthony didn't respond. He just looked down, ashamed. His parents stayed quiet too, clearly embarrassed by what had happened. I stood there feeling a mix of anger and relief. This whole mess was a reminder of why I'd made the right choice to leave Anthony. Whatever happened with that car and its payments was no longer my problem. It was Anthony's mess to clean up now, not mine. I didn't look at the car closely at first, but Anthony and his parents came to me about the insurance because they knew I had been in charge of payments. However, since the car was technically owned by the loan company, they were responsible for getting it repaired. And because they didn't have insurance, they now had to pay for all the repair costs themselves, plus the cost of fixing the guardrail they damaged. I couldn't help but wonder how expensive it would be to repair a luxury car. I was sure the bill would be huge. In the end, Anthony and his parents had no choice but to return the car. They were charged a massive amount of money for the repairs, leaving them in serious financial trouble. Not long after, I started receiving emails from Anthony. He kept begging me to get back together with him. In one message, he said they couldn't afford to pay their rent or utility bills anymore. Anthony had to move back in with his parents because of their money problems. However, things didn't go well for him there either. His parents, angry about the car and the financial mess, were very hard on him. I've decided to gift the expensive car you bought to my folks. What are your thoughts? Parents are overjoyed. Wait, did you buy the car just to show it off to your parents? That's right, of course. Whatever you say, the car is now theirs. If you don't agree, I'll get a divorce. Divorce? Right then, something inside of me broke. Even though I had always held back, hearing him say that was too much for me. Fine, I said. If that's how you feel, then I'll do it. My name is Barbara. I'm 40 years old and I work in an office. My spouse, Anthony, and our 9-year-old daughter, Ashley, reside with me. Anthony and I both have stable jobs, so we live well. Ashley is growing up quite well, and I try to keep myself happy. But nothing is perfect. My primary complaint is the way Anthony treats his parents. Sometimes it seems like he cares more about his parents than he does about Ashley and me, even though I think it's fantastic that he loves them. This has been a problem for years. One of the toughest times was when Ashley and I went into labor. I called Anthony at work and told him I was having contractions. I asked our soon-to-be baby to visit the hospital. Anthony replied, "Nevertheless, I'm afraid I can't. My mom has a burned finger, Therefore, I'm going to their place to help her. I found it hard to believe. How could he have thought his mother's burn was more important than being there when his child was born? It turned out that his mother had accidentally touched a hot pan. The burn wasn't that serious, so she just needed to run water over it to cool it. She was okay, but Anthony rushed over like it was an emergency. Not only was I upset with his mother, but I was also upset with Anthony. Why could he not see the importance of that moment? When Ashley turned 1, we also planned a special birthday party for her. But since my in-laws had organized a trip, they asked Anthony to drive them there. Anthony did more than drive them to the hotel. He stayed with them overnight after they were able to book an extra room. Meanwhile, Ashley was celebrating her first birthday at home with me. I was surprised that he chose to go on a trip with his parents instead of attending our daughter's milestone. Anthony puts in a lot of effort at work and is generally kind to me. But above everything, he puts his parents first. I've tried to understand, but it hurts when Ashley and I think he doesn't give a damn about us. Now that I have the car issue, I'm wondering how long I can live this way.